Well, I think he will try not to leave office. I'm still, maybe I'm naively optimistic that our democracy will hold in that front. But that was a perfect segue, Kurt, to the next topic, and that's the whole immigration issue. Because when you look back on history, there have been so few times that the National Guard has been called in. The last time was in 1992. And again, you talk about apples and oranges because that was after the Rodney King verdict. And that's where a lot of people in LA, frankly, didn't trust the police, right? So, and there were riots and they weren't necessarily partisan. They weren't anything to do with issues that people agreed or disagreed on. So, this is playing with fire here. And just on top of that, troops they're trained to kill. They're not trained to police our citizens. They don't know how to, they don't put handcuffs on people. They don't know how to read people their Miranda rights. And it's clear the president is just looking for an excuse, right? He's looking again for a spark. He's looking for something to go out of control where he has an excuse to start using the military on his own citizens. And that, if that is a Rubicon, that if we cross that one, we're in a whole new ballpark here. The good news is that except for some sophomoric stuff like burning Waymos on the first few nights, the results and the riots and the demonstrations have been mostly peaceful. And I think people understand, just look at any kind of history, peaceful demonstrations work. Violent ones do not. Trump is looking for a violent reaction. So let's hope it stays on. But what are your thoughts on the state of the immigration thing and this brazen overriding of local governors' desires on the National Guard and actually deploying Marines to patrol their own citizens?
I thought the Marines, though, never were they just were training. They never actually went on the streets.
Well, they're there. It's
Are they? I'm I'm out of the country, boys, but I mean, I'm only for 3 days. But I mean, I saw Karen the mayor lifted the curfew. So
Curfew, yeah.
But are the Marines still training there? Or are they home?
They have not been recalled back from there yet.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know that. Listen, I think, I watched this just from a purely non-political view. I watched how Governor Abbott called up his National Guard. Newsom obviously didn't. I mean, listen, what do you guys think as Democrats? Newsom had his 2 minutes of fame. I think it's over for the most part. I mean, I think that his Israel happening took the wind out of the sails of what was happening. I think this could have gotten a lot worse. I think that, people could have continued to protest. And as you guys know, this isn't the peaceful protesters that matter. It's the ones that are the hired ones that don't even care about the issues, that are looting and whatever. That, like you said, David, they didn't get to that. Thank goodness. But I also think because the American people and the media stopped paying attention to that and started paying attention to Israel, it kind of took all the wind out of everyone's sails. But
yeah,
do you guys think that, we can debate back and forth about if the National Guard being called up. I do not think the Marines needed to be called up. National Guard doesn't bother me as much. And I think they were holding them. They weren't arresting them until the police could arrest them if people did anything wrong. But still, it's still optics, and I get it. It's a very difficult conversation. But I did Bass and Newsom get more popular or less popular over this?
Newsom got more popular in the Democratic Party, I would say. And that's all he cares about right now because he's positioning for the Democratic primary in 2028. Bass, I think, has been a disaster of a mayor, well before this. And so I just think that her political fortunes are completely divorced from Newsom's. In my opinion, she just looks, like a terrible mayor who just has no control over her city on a myriad of issues, not just this one. It feels like it's been one blunder after the other for her. I think that it feels like that this president is looking for any opportunity to escalate and provoke.
Yeah.
And I don't think that military assets should be used that way to unnecessarily escalate situations. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, oh, this is going to be horrible. There's going to be violence. I'm going to send, a presence there that will likely increase the violence, the opportunity for violence, and therefore it is justified. It's like the whole point of law enforcement is actually first at the local level to de-escalate conflict, not escalate. That is what they are supposed to be taught. Is that the goal isn't to come in guns blazing, but to try to get things to resolve in a non-violent way before you have to escalate. And that's what the community policing actually is supposed to be. Um, I think that when you get to a point where you have agents who are willfully not identifying themselves and taking matters into their own hands, when an elected official just says, like, can you show me a warrant, and then they end up dragging him out of there. Like, I think that we're crossing lines that while you might agree Republican land, not you, Ashley, but Republican land with, yes, this is the right way to do this, and we should stand up and they're just trying to enforce the law. It's like, well, I can't help but think about January 6th when, people were putting their hands on law enforcement, and you called those people, not you, Ashley, Republicans called those people patriots, and they got pardoned. It's like, you can't say that you're the party of law and order and be okay with what happened on January 6th. It is completely contrarian to me. And if you're okay with the president of the United States deploying a National Guard into your state and the Marines into your state to enforce the law, you better be okay if a Democrat president sends the military into a red state to, quote, enforce the law as he or she sees fit. Like, if you're not okay with the latter, you can't be okay with the former.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I think that's
yeah,
right.
I would. The double standards are a hallmark of Donald Trump, and that's what's so frustrating. Being a Rockefeller Republican is that it seems like I'm always at odds. If I was talking to a friend of mine, and 10 years ago, we agreed on everything except abortion. I've always been pro-choice, and the death penalty, I used to be for it, now I'm against it. But other than that, we were on target with everything. But so, as to paraphrase Ronald Reagan, I didn't leave the Republican Party. The Republican Party left me. So I almost wish I didn't have to be so critical. But as far as the Dems go, I think Karen Bass is done. There is nothing that will permanently destroy the reputation of a politician than not responding to a disaster effectively. To me, that's the one line that you cannot cross. She was already not doing very well, and then she went over to, where was it, Ghana, to some inauguration when she knew
Yeah.
that they told her the fires were coming. It was just a fiasco in every sense.